we have probably our biggest problem that we're all facing right now is the debt. The U.S. has $36 trillion of debt, and the debt is growing by another $1 trillion every 100 days. And, the politicians are running around, with their hair on fire. Oh yeah, we've got all this debt, and, we need to raise your taxes and lower your taxes, or we need to cut down spending. But those solutions are a drop in the bucket. And let me explain why. $36 trillion is equal to the amount that the federal government brings in taxes per year over 7 years. So if the government didn't spend a single penny, the federal government, it would take 7 years to pay off the debt, not even including interest. So I came up with what we can do about this.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Dre and Smiley, the Inner Circle podcast.
Smiley, man, have you ever heard of this company called Big Ass Fans?
I think I saw an ad or something.
If you were to guess, this is a company called Big Ass Fans. If you were to guess, what do you think they sell?
I would think it's like these big old fans.
That's right. They sell big ass fans. Marketing genius. Am I right? Marketing genius. Yeah. By the same token, today's guest is an author of a book called Bad Ass Solutions to Big Ass Problems. Marketing genius, right? Without even opening the book, you have a great sense of what that book's about. I'm excited about having this guest on because they share an approach to solving a lot of problems in the world today. And by the way, this approach that he takes in this book is nonpartisan, right? So he's not on here saying, hey, this side can solve it, that side can't, or vice versa. Some of the topics that he addresses in this book, in terms of solutions that he has, are around education, the economy, global warming, gun reform. These are hot topics, obviously. Abortion, U.S. taxes, securities, the stock market specifically, homelessness, mental health, etc. So again, he's not a politician. He's just a person, lives in the world, has had a lot of experiences, and through these experiences and insight, he has some solutions that he believes will solve these problems. With that, Mitch, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah. So Mitch Francis is our guest today. So Mitch, and I'm sure you weren't 13 years old thinking, you know what, I'm writing a book about how to solve the world's problems.
No.
You had a life before this, right? Tell me about yourself.
Well, that's true. And as a matter of fact, I had no intention of writing a book. It's kind of interesting. I've been a business guy. I've had a 40-year career in business where I've created and been the CEO of publicly traded companies, of private companies. I've been a commercial real estate developer. I still own and manage commercial real estate all over the country.
We may have to dive deeper into that aspect because both Smiley and I have a strong interest in entrepreneurship, more specifically real estate. But continue.
Well, then you know as well as I that for any business person to reach their goals, along that path, they have roadblocks thrown in their way. It seems like every damn day. And to be successful, you've got to be a good problem solver. You've got to figure out how to get around them, over them, under them, through them, whatever it takes. You've got to solve problems. And I think over my pretty long career, I developed pretty extreme problem solving skills. And I had a family tragedy a couple of years ago. And you may remember in a suburb of Chicago, there was a mass killing, and the crazed young man with assault rifles killed 7 people and wounded a lot more. And one of the people that he killed was my brother-in-law's brother. And needless to say, the family was just devastated. This was a terrific guy. I know everybody says it, but this was a great guy. And beside being hurt over this, I was pissed. And I left thinking, there's so many problems, particularly in our country, that nobody's doing anything about, and these are big ass problems. And I've always been kind of a news guy. I like the news. I like current events, and it's kind of my nature to go, well, why don't they just do this? And I took stock of myself, and I actually wrote down an outline because there were so many things that I had like the beginnings of solutions to. And sure enough, there were 20 really big ass problems that I had at least the beginnings of solutions to. And I looked at this, and I went, this is a book. And that was about 2.5 years ago, and I created Badass Solutions. And that's how it came about, where again, I had no intention of writing a book.
Yeah, yeah. I want to dive deeper into the book, obviously, but let's back up just a bit. So you mentioned that you were kind of a serial entrepreneur, right? And so through this journey, this is kind of how, you came up with these ideas, things like that, and had books. Talk to me about the path to becoming a serial entrepreneur. Were you raised in a family, for example, that, parents are entrepreneurs, or were you raised in a family where, you had nothing and the hunger is what drove you to kind of be an entrepreneur? Talk about me about your path to entrepreneurship.
Well, I really was lucky. My dad was very entrepreneurial, and kind of did, I was aware of some real estate transactions that were kind of, almost by mistake. He had retail stores, and where they put a store, they bought the building. They actually realized, particularly, in those days, they could get a loan to buy the building, very often 100% of the purchase price. And they found that they could buy the building and have a mortgage payment that was basically the same as the rent they would pay. So again, it was almost by mistake that they bought these buildings where they put a store, and they ended up selling, he and my uncle ended up selling their business, but kept the real estate. And growing up, I just had my eyes open to this and said, oh, this makes sense. And I always liked real estate, and I felt I had an understanding of it from an early age. So I was really very lucky. And it wasn't like my dad sat me down and said, here's what you do. Here's how you do the real estate business. But I had my eyes open. And I grew up in Colorado, in Denver, and I went to the University of Colorado and was actually one of the first real estate majors in the U.S. There were only a couple universities in the country that even offered a real estate major, and one of them was University of Colorado. So growing up there, I was obviously a skier, still am, and I was actually a professional skier. And during school, I taught skiing on weekends and holidays. Studied on the chairlifts, and when I finished school, I moved to Los Angeles and started in the real estate business for a commercial real estate broker.
Wow. Wow. Interesting. I have 101 questions about real estate, but let me keep this going, and maybe we'll have a chance to come back to real estate. So I know you also did a pivot here and there, and you have a number of patents, and you did some work in Las Vegas. Talk to me about the other areas of business that you've dabbled in.
Well, let me tell you an interesting story. When I was working in real estate, just after I started, I was very fortunate. I literally closed 3 transactions right away. And we had, back in those days, you had secretaries who would type up offers and contracts and things like that. And one of the secretaries in the bullpen area was congratulating me. And I was humble, and I said, well, something, I was just in the right place at the right time. And she got angry at me. She said, that's not it. I was just shocked. And I said, what are you talking about? And she said, it's much more important than being in the right place at the right time is knowing you are. And to this day, guys, that's still the most intelligent thing anyone has ever said to me. And it's played out over the next 40 years of my approach to business. And I look, it's like we're all standing in a stream, and there are opportunities passing all of us by. And some of them we see and understand that they're right for us and have an opportunity to, to bring something to the world that could be successful. And I've done that many times in my career, everything from finding the right, real estate deal to pursue to actually finding a business opportunity. You mentioned Las Vegas. I don't know if you have time for a story about how that.
Yeah, we got plenty of time.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, there's a very successful ticket booth in the middle of Times Square in New York.
It's called Tickets. Right?
Well, yeah, it's TKTS, right? And they sell that night's unsold tickets for the Broadway shows. And they're incredibly successful. Every day when they open, every afternoon, there's a line down the street. So I was familiar with them. And I was doing business in Las Vegas with another business of ours that we actually sold tickets to an attraction that we owned and operated across the U.S. and in Canada. And one day I was talking to my marketing people, and I said, why don't we sell tickets at the half-price booth? And they all looked at each other and said, well, Las Vegas doesn't have that. And I was shocked.
Light bulb.
Exactly, light bulb. So that's what I'm talking about. Here, this is an opportunity. Millions of people, about TKTS in New York, and to recognize that it didn't exist in Las Vegas, which was a perfect mirror city and opportunity to New York that nobody had ever done. And it was so obvious to me to do this that I figured there must be some barrier to entry that otherwise it would have been done. And I spent about 2 months trying to figure this out. Was there a city code? Were the hotels against it? Were the producers against it? On and on and on. And it turned out nobody was against it. It just had never been done. So I set out to do this, and it was very difficult. Nothing's easy. That's a big message. Nothing is easy. And it took me 2 years just to get 12 shows of the 60 to try this. They were afraid that we would ruin their full price ticket sales. So again, solving problems, was, I went back to them and said, look, you don't need a contract. Try it once. If you don't like it, if it doesn't work for you, you don't have to give us tickets. Just try it once. 12 shows tried it. And just like New York, we opened the doors and we literally had a line down the street. And it was incredibly successful. We actually ended up selling $1 billion of show tickets, tours, attractions, dining reservations. And for a while, we were the number one ticket broker in Las Vegas. So, it's kind of an example of this idea of knowing you're in the right place at the right time, seeing opportunities, take them, solve the problems to make it work.
Smiley, I'm kicking over you. One quick question, Mitch. So this is like one of those moments where, you meet the inventor of the light bulb. You're like, you invented the light bulb? So wait a second. So the ticket place in Las Vegas, you guys own that. You guys invented that.
Right.
Tell me, remind me the name of the one in Vegas. Is the same?
Tickets for Tonight.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many times I've used it. I can't tell you how many times I've
fantastic.
used it. Yeah, and that's awesome that I'm meeting the person that came up with that idea. I love it.
Thank you. It's Tickets for Tonight. That was it. And we were actually a publicly traded company. We were on the NASDAQ Stock Exchange.
Wow. Awesome.
When I was doing my research on you, Mitch, the one thing that you talked to, I think you were the Greek broadcaster, the Greek university guy, and you were talking about being a public company, and you said something about you always had to fend off these raiders trying to buy you, or it was a total, instead of dealing with the business problems, you had to deal with these money guys from New York or Baltimore trying to buy you up. Can you talk about that just from when you think of a CEO managing the tickets or managing your real estate, you're dealing in the business, but these are threats outside of the business.
Right.
How did that affect you as a CEO or a business person? It's like, man, these black swan events are coming because these guys are looking at balance sheets. And I think you said on the podcast, a lot of times these guys didn't even understand the business. They just wanted what you had. So how did you go through that? And how did you persevere and come out the other side and be a better business person?
What, Smiley, you characterize that really well, because it was a real negative. It was a horror. Here we just want to mind our own business. They do our business, deliver a great product to the public, deliver profit to our shareholders, and do the right things. And then you have what I call the smart asses in the stock market. The hedge fund guys, the stock manipulators. I think they're manipulators, the shorters, all these smart asses who figure out the game. And there were many attempts. It's kind of funny. We did everything right, which turned out to be a problem for us. We had no debt. We made a lot of money. We had a lot of cash. And, there are, hedge funds and we had a small company. So we had really small hedge fund guys, they just look at stock reports, and that's all they do to find, some piece of gold. And, they come across this little company, who's the number one in its market in Las Vegas, and they're making a ton of money. They have a lot of cash and they have no debt. And they go, oh, that should be mine. I'm not kidding. That's the mentality here. And they buy a little bit of stock and they start playing that game. And there's they want to start getting control. They come, and they say, oh, we just acquired 5% of your company. And, oh, yeah, we want a board seat. And we think that you should be, doing a lot more online. And, we want to start, influencing the company, and all this kind of thing. And when actually all they really want to do is start taking over the company and own it themselves, because they see an undervalued stock relative to the success we were having. And even, a little company like ours, is not, unique. You have, recently Disney, had to fend off, these same kinds of smart asses who come in and say, well, if you get rid of the, your television networks and add more parks and all this stuff. Meanwhile, these people who came to take over certainly my business, and as I researched even Disney, they didn't have background in anything regarding what we did. So we had a constant stream of these people who had no background in ticketing, no background in shows in Las Vegas. They didn't even know anybody in the business, in the hotels or anything like that, or the producers. They had nothing, but they saw an opportunity. And guys, I had to fight them off. I mean, I think if you can probably say anything about me, it's just, I'm a damn fighter. You're not going to take this business, and I'm going to fight you to the freaking death. And it was hard, and it used up a lot of our money. We spent millions and millions of dollars that should be our shareholders' money on lawyers fighting these fights. It's a horrible thing. And I actually, one of my chapters in the book is fighting, redeveloping the stock exchange, the stock market, and getting rid of all these smart asses, truly getting rid of them all.
When I heard you say that, I thought it was so insightful, because it's rare that I find a CEO talk about that side of the business, where they're always talking about growing and investing and all the stuff you have to do to keep the business going, but they don't talk about those external threats, which are those Wall Street guys, or those, let's just say the investors who's just trying to, like the barbarians at the gate, if you remember that old book from the past.
Yeah.
That's what I thought when you said that. But switching to your book a little bit, I looked at your some of your problems you want to solve, and I thought one was very interesting, and I would describe it. The real hit guy is because I'm in Florida, so I'm a little more sensitive to the rising waters and the melting glaciers and the Greenland. And what you said, I thought was so amazing. And I'm gonna come back to a question. So Dre, what he said was basically, if you look at the water melting, and please forgive me if I quote it wrong, melting in the glaciers is about 7% of the water going into the ocean, whereas most of the water going into the ocean comes from the 20 big rivers in our country. So why
in the
don't we
world.
channel in the world, the seven
Yeah.
big rivers in the world, put in the most water from rainwater, runoff, or whatever
Right.
into the oceans. So
Right.
we redirect the water in the rivers inland to these arid areas, we can offset the rise of the coastal waters. Is that what you said, basically? Oh, so I like that problem and that solution. I was like, that's so genius. With your experience, from your decades of experience in the business world, let's say you got tapped from the government, any government, because this is a worldwide problem. And they say, Mitch, we want you with your problem-solving skills, your ability as a developer to harness all these different micro businesses together to solve a really big problem. Would you do it, and how would you do it if they were tapped to do that? Because it's a big problem, but I think the one thing I would like to cut you off with where I cut myself off, the one thing you said, it costs a lot of money, but to do nothing costs 10x more than the money it'll cost to fix it.
You're so
what
right.
would you do?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because
I researched.
you did a great job.
He read the book. He read the book.
I didn't write the book, but I did. I mean, I never heard the book until you popped up. I was like, "Who's Mitch?" I was like, man, this guy is awesome. So I will read the book. So thank you.
Well, thank you for that. Actually, that problem of the 20, I think has an impact, as you were saying, on the entire planet. Many of my problems, or most of my problems, really have to do with the U.S., but this one has the entire world. We're headed for a global socioeconomic catastrophe that is unheard of in human history. We've got, like you said, the melting polar ice caps. And I came up with an amazing statistic. The water is melting from the polar ice caps at a rate that would fill 20 Olympic-sized swimming pools every second. It's an incredible amount of water. But like you said, it turns out that that's only 7% of the water that's going into the oceans from just our 20 largest rivers. But what's going to happen if we don't do this, if we don't rechannel just 7% of that water to arid lands, the oceans are going to rise that by the end of this century, all coastal cities and islands are going to be flooded. So the human toll, the economic toll, is going to be unlike anything we've ever experienced in humankind. So we've got to start now. And guys, in all my research, I couldn't find anybody actually doing anything about this. But we can. We can stop the ocean levels from rising. And at the same time, it's an amazing thing. We can actually use all that fresh water for the billions of people living on Earth in the most parched areas of the planet, and bring food and water to people who don't have it. And so we can save the planet from the rising oceans and stop hunger and thirst. This is something we have to do, and we've got to jump on it.
How would you apply your business skills to solve it if someone said you got X trillions of dollars to solve it?
Hello, Elon?
Wait, it's like a. Did you say, can I speak to Elon? Is that what you said? I love it.
I'm just a guy. I don't control those trillions of dollars. I'm trying to start the information, and a great theme of my book is we really all need to get involved, and it can be simple. It can be as simple as telling your family, telling your friends about one of these solutions that touches your own heart. Like you said, you live in Florida. Florida's going to be underwater. I mean, no shit. Wait, can I say that? Sorry. It's going to be underwater, Smiley. And, we've got to do something about this. And it can be a selfish interest, your own property value it's going to plummet. It's going to be a problem. And then where are you going to live, and how are you going to afford it, and on and on and on. So it's a matter of telling your family, telling your friends about one of these solutions, hopefully that touches you, and then write to your own representatives in Congress. We kind of forget that those guys work for us. We don't work for them. They work for us. And, if we can develop a groundswell of people interested or talking about these solutions, it can get done. There's I wrote very big into quotes, and there's an overriding theme that I use from Mahatma Gandhi, who said, "When the people lead, the leaders will follow."
Mm,
And
I like
that's what
that.
I'm hoping for, guys. I can't do it. I don't have Elon Musk's phone number. I don't have, I don't have I'm not speaking at the United Nations,
Yeah.
but that's what it's going to take. I mean, it's going to take a
Yeah.
global effort with a huge amount of money. But incredibly, we actually have a model for this. This is on a smaller scale has been done, where, for decades already, there's an organization called the Central Arizona Project. And they've been moving water from the Colorado River 336 miles to deliver fresh water to 5 million people in Phoenix and Tucson. For decades, it's been done. And it wasn't very expensive, actually. I think it was like forgive me, I'd have to look at my book, but I think it's $8 billion to do this. But over decades, that becomes minuscule compared to the benefit, the economic benefit. So again, look at this on this global scale. If we did this and stop the ocean levels from rising and deliver fresh water to people who need it, the economic benefit of saving the coastlines, saving the island, saving, real estate and people's homes and livelihoods and agriculture and all that kind of thing. The economic benefit is staggering and many, many times greater than the enormous cost it's going to occur. So this is an unusual thing where, it's not like throwing money at a solution and, that money going down the drain. That's interesting. No pun intended.
No pun intended.
But the money actually having an economic gain. This is a business that you would want to invest in, actually. So call Elon, will you?
Yeah. He's listening.
Oh, I hope so. I hope your reach is really great.
Yeah, it is. It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. So I'm glad Smiley asked that question, Mitch, in terms of the concern about global warming. It's something that's, I think, at the forefront of every intelligent person's mind in terms of the impact it's having on the world as a whole. As it relates to your book, Badass Solutions to Big Ass Problems, I'm sure you'd have a sense of, the priority and all the things that you have solutions for. What would be next on that list in terms of a high priority that you offer a solution for? They're all equally important. I realize that. Otherwise, you wouldn't have included them in your book. But if they were the next item on the list that you would say, hey, Dre, this is one that keeps me up at night, and I have a solution for it. What is that?
Something, Dre, I never really thought about that. Honestly, I really never did. I never put the hierarchy to the order in which they should go. But there is one that's kind of near and dear to my heart, as well, and I think is going to be fundamentally important, maybe critical to the United States. We have a chasm in our country between the rich and poor that's getting greater. And I looked around and I was trying to figure out, well, why is this? What's perpetuating this difference between the wealthy and the poor, or even the middle class? That divide is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it doesn't seem to be getting repaired. The middle and lower classes don't seem to be gaining, in the economic race. And I recognized that I think it's about schools, the public schools. And if you go back to our founding fathers, They had a great idea, which was this, that the democracy of the United States has the best chance of survival into the future if we have equal opportunities for everybody. And they were, they really put an importance on this. And John Adams kind of led a direction of the way we're going to do that, the insurance policy to deliver equal opportunities in our country is equal education. And we don't have that. We've developed into a situation where you have the wealthiest people who have the most influence putting their kids in private schools. So again, the wealthiest, the most influential people in our system have nothing to do with the public schools. They're not in the debate. They're not in the effort to make them great. They don't, maybe they care, but they don't care a whole lot because their kids aren't there. So, there are good public schools. There are lots of parents who care very deeply about getting their kids the best education possible. But let me tell you, on the whole, if you have a starting line and a kid in private school is here and kid in public school is here, no matter how good it is, you take somebody who's spending $30,000 to $50,000 a year for high school, they're going to get into the better universities. They're going to end up in the better jobs. And
that's what that network they have access to as well in the private school.
Absolutely.
There's a different
network. Great point. Great point, Dre. Wait, can I add something to my book? Yeah, I think you really made a good point. But so what we end up having is what they had in Europe, a landed aristocracy that perpetuates itself. The rich see that their kids are going to continue to be rich and successful in our system. And what do we do with this? And so, and I actually, I have a badass solution here that is, badass, big ass, hard ass. But this is serious. I mean, I really think this could bring the downfall of the United States. I don't think we're ever all that far from revolution, guys. And when you have big numbers of people who aren't successful in the economy, revolution can be an answer. I don't think it's tomorrow, but we're evolving into that. So here's my answer. Outlaw private schools. Can't have them. Bring everybody, all the wealthy, with the most influence into the public school dialogue. Their kids are going to be there. They're going to make damn sure those public schools are great. Great teachers, great equipment, great facilities, great security, lower class sizes. We have to make our public schools great. And guys, they have to be great for everybody, for every kid. And let me tell you something. It's selfish to me. I want the United States to succeed. Mm-hmm. And to succeed, we've got to have equal opportunities for everybody. That's my answer.
I like that. I was going to follow up because I think with the schools, because if we look at our schools, public schools, they were built for the industrial age to create labor to go into factories and manufacturing. Well, we need to bring in, like you mentioned, in the 1970s, or in the early 70s, you were in one of two real estate programs at the university level, yours in Wharton. But now they should be teaching real estate in high school. They should be teaching entrepreneurship in high school, public speaking in high school. All the things that you need to be successful as an entrepreneur should be taught in 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade. Just that mindset change of just learning how to involve or insert in the seed in someone's mind that, you know what, you can, and you're going to come in this world and solve a problem, and you're going to do your resources and figure it out because you're critically thinking about how do I bring value to the nation as a whole.
Oh, I love that. Wait. I'm going to turn the tables. I'm going to interview you.
Okay, let's do
it. No, I really do. I think you hit on something critically important, and we do need to teach things of value that, we have students graduating. They don't know what the stock market is. They don't know what a retirement account is. They don't understand interest, and I'm, on one little, facet of what you mentioned, but they don't know how to do a checkbook. How incredible is that we don't have, valuable education in addition to, the normal education that we certainly need of mathematics and science and, all those kind of things, but to teach practical, important information to our kids so that they leave school with a way to survive and thrive. I'm with you. I applaud what you said.
Because I think if like what you said, when you were applying your ticket idea in Vegas and you were surprised that no one else saw it, because when that person, the secretary, said you were at the right spot and you were ready, I thought about a quote I've seen somewhere where it said, luck is where opportunity and preparation meets. And
Right.
when the secretary said that to you, that's what I was thinking. I was like, well, a lot of these young kids in public schools, if they had the opportunity to see it in their eyes, they may come up with a new way to do whatever they're doing in their neighborhoods because they're thinking of it. I'm going to come out here and solve a problem. I know the understanding of compound interest. I know 72, the rule of 72. I know certain of my financial things that I can turn on and make my neighborhood better or make the situation better. But because we're not teaching them life skills in any public schools, they're not learning any life skills. So they don't even see that there's opportunities all around. So I like that.
Oh,
what you said.
man, you've got it. I really, you're right on it. I really like what you said.
So I'm so glad you touched on schooling and the importance of, leveling the playing field in terms of, potentially doing away with private schools, because like everyone, like each of us have mentioned, there's so many barriers that are created when you have someone who is exposed to a completely different world in terms of the network, in terms of opportunities than someone else, right? And so your vision, your lens is going to be completely different. You won't have the same lens that you had, for example, where you heard of something taking place in one city and thinking, well, just the thought of that could be applied here probably wouldn't even enter someone's mind that hasn't had the same exposure in terms of schooling. So I'm glad you touched on that.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Another question for you. So money, right? Your book also touches on that, and as it relates to the economy and taxes. So tell me what your solution is to how you would fix the issue with our economy and how you would address the tax system here in the U.S.
So, we have probably our biggest problem that we're all facing right now is the debt. The U.S. has $36 trillion of debt, and the debt is growing by another $1 trillion every 100 days. And, the politicians are running around, with their hair on fire. Oh yeah, we've got all this debt, and we need to raise your taxes and lower your taxes, or we need to cut down spending. But those solutions are a drop in the bucket. And let me explain why. $36 trillion is equal to the amount that the federal government brings in taxes per year over 7 years. So if the government didn't spend a single penny, the federal government, it would take 7 years to pay off the debt, not even including interest. So lowering expenses, raising a bit of taxes, that's not going to do it. I mean, we need a very radical solution here, or it's not going to be done. And that's what's going on. Is I'm happy with Elon, and what they're trying to do and cut out government waste and all that. That's great, but it's not going to solve the whole problem. It's going to solve a tiny bit of the problem. So I came up with what we can do about this, and it's kind. Let me throw a rhetorical question to you guys that you don't have to answer, and to your audience. This isn't really a test, but if the U.S. is bankrupt, which is the classical meaning of having more debt than your assets, if the U.S. is bankrupt, how is it possible that we have the biggest, strongest economy in the world? We're 30% bigger than China, even though they have 4 times as many people. Catch this. We're 15 and a half times bigger economy than Russia.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how is it possible if we're bankrupt? And the answer is we're really not bankrupt. We all know that the U.S. is not going to default on its loans, on its debts. But let's dissect that a little bit. Through history and a great part of the American history, we were on what was called the gold standard. And it was really a fascinating idea that we had all this gold stored at Fort Knox. And the theory was that the U.S. could print dollar bills and pay for things with those dollar bills that represented the value of the gold in Fort Knox. And it was so pure, guys, that citizens used to be able, at least for a time, to exchange like a $20 bill for $20 worth of gold. It was pure. So that ended in the Nixon administration in the 70s. And I believe that was kind of the beginning of the deficit spending by Congress. So now we have this, and I looked at, as I explained, I'm a business guy. And, I've done a lot of accounting and deal with a lot of accountants. And I looked at this with regular accounting standards about the U.S. and looked at it U.S. is a corporation. Sure. And I looked at this and said, well, the U.S. has a lot more assets than just its gold. It's got vast lands and parks and minerals and planes, ships, military installations, schools, hospitals, on and on and on, to where we have assets, real assets that eclipse just what we have in gold. So I said, well, this is interesting. Let's call this the asset standard. And under the same theory of the gold standard, we can actually, instead of rather printing dollar bills, we can write checks. So we send a check for $1 trillion to China because they have $1 trillion of our U.S. securities, and pay them back, pay them off. Say, here's your money back. Thanks very much. Have a nice day. And the question becomes, will they deposit the check? And will it clear? And the answer is absolutely. So China and your Aunt Betty, because we'll pay everybody, are going to run to their bank and deposit that check. And then will it clear? And it will clear because it's drawn on the United States Bank, the U.S., the Federal Reserve Bank, who's the one to clear the check. So we just paid off the entire debt on the same theory as the gold standard, but stepping it up now to the asset standard. It's gone. No more interest payments. No more hole. But I think coupled with this, because if you show this to Congress, they'll never stop spending, and any more will, in my opinion, hurt our economy. Anything more than paying off the debt we have. People loaned us money, pay it back. And I do think we could spend a little extra. We could make the schools great. We can pay underfunded programs like Medicare and Social Security. They're underfunded. Fund them. Take care of the economy of the United States. Boom, going forward. But now, I think this has to be done with a constitutional amendment that says the U.S. cannot spend more money than it brings in taxes. It's got to have a balanced budget. Done. We just paid off the entire debt and set up the United States economy to thrive into the future.
I think I'm going to be the first to say it, Dre. When Mitch runs for political office, I want to be the first one to vote. Mitch for president. All right. He has a
I'll run the campaign. I'll run the campaign. I'll be the social media advisor.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Thanks for that. But you're never going to have to do that. It ain't going
Never
to
say
happen.
never, bitch. Never say never.
Never going to happen, guys.
Mitch, tell me this.
Look.
So let's say you're in an elevator. I hop on. I see this big ass book in your hand called Big Ass Solutions to today's big ass problems, right? Badass solutions to today's big ass problems. And I say to you, Mitch, I'm only going 2 floors up. I say to you, Mitch, what's that book? Why should I buy it? What would you say?
Because you want to be a badass.
I like
There
it.
it is.
I like it. I like it.
No, no, thank you for that, Dre. I think people are frustrated. I don't think it's just me. I think people are frustrated. You know, we're living in a time where we're aware of really big problems that are not getting solved. And, you know, the news every day, the politicians, it's a dark cloud over us. And I'm just the opposite. I'm optimistic because we have huge problems, but we can fix them. So I'm just the opposite. I'm happy. I'm optimistic. I'm not in this dark cloud where I think you know, to offer people a way out of, we don't have to live with these never-ending problems of you know, the economy and poor schools and crime and drugs and immigration issues and you know, homelessness and healthcare and the military and taxes and the stock market. All these things have really good solutions to take us forward. So I'm hoping that people are interested in that. You know, I'm hoping that, you know, your viewers say, you know, I wouldn't mind reading about that and see if there's something that I could get involved in that touches me, that I want to see if I can be involved with change. And you don't have to do a lot. You really don't. But I'm hoping everybody does something. And it can be as simple as tell your friends, tell your family, write to your representatives. We can go.
And where do I go to find this book, Mitch?
Thanks for that, Dre. Wherever books are sold. So I think the easiest is Amazon. It's Badass Solutions, and it's with or without a hyphen, bad-ass solutions. And I have a website, Badass Solutions with a hyphen, or I think you get on it without, bad-solutions.com. Tells you a lot more, and you can just, you know, click on the book to buy it. It'll take you right to your favorite bookseller.
Mitch, we could talk to you all day. It's just so
insightful.
insightful.
I know so many questions.
Yeah, but
Smiley. I don't can't do it now, but one of the questions came to mind as he was talking about the economy and how the dollar at one time was directly linked to the gold standard. BRICS. That's the first question that came to mind. His thought on BRICS. But I know we don't have time for that, Mitch. So we'll have to have you back on and talk some more.
I know the follow up when he talked about the gold standard, I thought about this book I read, The Creature from Jekyll Isle, where they set up the Federal Reserve and all that stuff. If you had a chance to read that book, it's phenomenal. But it talks about the formation of the Federal Reserve Bank, and it started
1913.
1913, all the way
And they
up to
did
the
not
present.
stop the Depression. They didn't stop it.
No, not at all. But before we go to the final four, Mitch, was there anything we should have asked you wanted us to ask you that we didn't ask you? Or you going to talk about?
You stumped me. You know, because we covered a lot, and I thought you guys are, you know, provocative. You ask great questions, and I think you have really good insight. I'm really impressed with you guys. Thank you. You know, my message, if I have something, and I'm sorry to be redundant, but it's, please get involved. Please do something. Get your ass off the sofa for 10 minutes. That's my hope.
Awesome. All right, it's time for the final four, Dre.
So for the final four, we do something here, Mitch, that's a little, different, I guess you could say. There we go. Go ahead, Smiley.
All right, first question, Mitch. What is something that never fails to make you laugh? It just grabs your side and you just can't stop tear dripping laughing.
You know, you're going to hate me and your audience is going to abandon me. I'm so childlike. Farts make me laugh.
Hilarious.
I think it's because my wife reeks out. So there's like nothing funnier to me.
So that means you probably have a whoopee cushion.
If she would get rid of it, she'd find it, get rid of it.
And she would probably tell you either it or you has to go.
Well, Drake, it's both of us for sure.
What's the biggest risk you've ever taken, Mitch?
I've gone into a business that I had to risk everything I had to do so, and walk away from walk away from the real estate business that I was making a nice living on, and go to a business direction. And I actually had to sit down with my wife and say, you know, we need to look at this because I'm risking our future. I'm risking our livelihood here. And
Wow.
and I have the right woman, guys. It is so valuable. She jumped on board with me and supported and helped me in every way possible. She's just the best.
Oh, awesome. I like that story. Here's one. If you had 24 hours to spend with anyone alive or dead, who would you want to spend those 24 hours with and why?
You're going to hate me again. I'm corny, you know. My wife. There's nothing more
That's
than
the answer.
there's
Oh,
more
I
nothing
love
more I
that.
like than being
Yeah.
with her.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
all
beautiful.
right. That's
The
all right.
ladies in
How
my
many
audience
years?
will love that. Yeah.
Yeah. How many
No,
years
I'm
in?
lucky, guys. Really, I'm lucky,
Yeah.
and I take advantage of it.
Awesome.
How many years have you guys been together?
We've been married 43 years.
Check that out.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Congratulations.
Awesome. Yeah,
same
I
woman,
love that.
43 years.
Yeah. Hey, a lot of people can't say that. A lot of people can't say that. Yeah. What is one thing that most people don't know about you that you wish they did?
That I wish they did.
That you wish they did?
I've been a drummer all my life, and please invite me to do a set.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
It won't be
I love
very
it.
good, but I'll have a lot of fun.
Well, that is super cool, Mitch, man. This has been phenomenal. I'm so enthused, and like I said, before you popped up on our calendar, I have never heard your book. I can't wait to get I walk 20,000 steps every Sunday. I can't wait to get your audio book and listen to it, and just maybe read it on a
It's going to be
plane.
the audio book could be out in about a month.
Oh,
Nice.
okay. I'll be first on the waiting list because
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And so thank you for being here and sharing your time and your wisdom, Drake.
Yeah, man. I really appreciate you being on.
You guys are fabulous. I had so much fun, and I feel like I'm going to get graded here. I hope I
You
pass.
passed the test, bitch. You passed the test.
Okay. Thank you very much for having me.